Welcome back, and thank you for joining us for this edition of the 2014 Campaign Roundtable Series. I'm politics reporter Robert-rizzuto, and we are here with the three candidates looking to represent the 1st Hampden-Hampshire district in the Massachusetts State Senate. Again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you to be here.
For the next question, we are going to kick this over to our panel of journalists from the Republican. And for the first one, we are going to go to the Republicans' Ron Chamelis. Ron?
Thanks, Rob. Justifiably or otherwise, Eric Lesser's ability to raise a substantial amount of money, more than $300,000 by the end of August, drew a lot of attention during the primary, particularly because the race was so close. Much of it came from out of state, that's been documented. But it did raise a broader general question about campaign financing. In the opinion of you candidates, is there a need or a reason to revisit the campaign finance laws, or in your opinion, are the current laws equitable and fair?
Okay, campaign finance. You know, money makes the world go round, and it certainly does in political season. You know, on the state level, campaign finance. I think this has come up a little bit in your guys' race. Deb, we'll start with you on this. Do you think campaign finance laws are fine the way that they are in Massachusetts, or is this something we need to revisit as a state?
I think we most certainly have to revisit it. I think the importance of people feeling confident that the person they're going to elect has gotten there by local investments with local people working locally to get that person in is really important. There's a big concern out there about where money comes from and what influence it may have on the individual who's going to be in Boston. So if I were to get a large sum of money from a fundraiser, am I obligated to then listen to that individual who's helped me to gain all of that money? Keeping the money local helps you keep an eye on where it's come from and who's provided that support for you, so that you can really take a look at where that investment has come from. So I do believe that we should take a look at it.
So some more campaign finance regulations potentially.
Absolutely.
Okay. Eric, on this topic, I'm kind of at the
center of this.
certainly
directed at me, no problem. A couple things. First, I think Citizens United is one of the worst Supreme Court decisions in recent history.
Just to clarify for folks, if you're not familiar, Citizens United was a Supreme Court decision from 2010 that basically said that restricting corporations' donations is, blocking free speech, if you will. So
exactly, and I would support measures on the state level to basically reverse the impact of Citizens United, keep out the influence of special interest money and dark money that's undisclosed. I would gladly take a pact right here to prevent spending from shadowy outside groups that don't disclose their donors. Gladly, I think that that's something we need to work on. Senate President, or incoming Senate President Stan Rosenberg, has a bill before the State House to increase disclosure requirements, increase campaign finance reform measures. I would be an enthusiastic supporter of that legislation and would work to champion that legislation. A couple of just points on my fundraising, because that was where the question was directed. I've raised more money in small amounts from more people inside the district than any of my opponents, and that's a fact. It's all available on the OCPF website to look at. The contributions include my high school debate coach. It includes my trigonometry teacher from Longmeadow High School. It includes baseball coaches and friends who I've worked with. And it also includes folks who I've worked with in public service and friends of mine who I worked with in school and studied with in college. And that's a good thing. They have faith in my abilities, and they're excited about the new ideas we're putting forward in this campaign, and I'm proud of that support.
Gotcha. Okay, so both for some type of campaign finance regulations going forward. Mike Franco, topic of campaign finance. Are we good? Do we need a little bit more regulation? What do you think?
Well, I'm a very grassroots candidate. That means we're running on a shoestring. So joining a pact to limit campaign financing is really not my bag. I don't need to do that. I'm very impressed with Eric's fundraising ability, but I do think it's connected to his relation with the Obama administration and the White House, and he has shown to get local contributions and so forth, which is good. But a lot of the influence is coming from the top, from Washington D.C., Boston, Chicago. So it creates momentum, and you're able to raise more money, and I'm very impressed. However, I don't believe there should be changes in the law right now. The Citizens United case, I'm in favor of the way the decision came down, actually, because I think it supports free speech. And speech is a very extremely important thing. It's the first right of the Bill of Rights, and they put it there for a purpose. And in political speech, from my experience campaigning for about 15 years, it's held in very high esteem because you're speaking on behalf of a lot of people who like you, who follow you, and do things with you in a campaign and so forth. So it's a very supreme speech, regular speech, ordinary speech from the grassroots people. That's important too. The rules from the state are rigorous. They're very transparent. You have to do a lot of reporting. And what Debra and I can do really is look at where that money is coming from and determine if it's coming from special interest. We know there's special interest. I'm an independent. I'm grassroots, so I don't connect with some of the special interests that Eric and Debra have the privilege of doing.
Okay, so just to clarify, Mike thinks that campaign finance is good the way it is, and both Debra and Eric would go for more disclosure. Really, we're kind of limited as far as what we can do because the Supreme Court decision limits, possibilities. But disclosure is something that can be pushed, and that's a direction you'd both fight for. Thank you very much. And for the next question, we are going to go right back to our panel, and this one comes from the Republicans' Jane Kaufman. Jane?
Thank you. How will you vote on the referendum to repeal the expanded casino legislation that was passed by the legislature in 2011? That's part one of a two-part question. Part two is, what will you do if the repeal is passed?
Okay, so we're here on the topic of casinos. First, we'd like to know if you're going to vote to repeal the casino law, and then, if so, what will you be doing as a legislator? And I'd like to kind of frame this in the context of everybody has said you might be able to repeal the law that licensed up to 3 casinos, but the legislature has the last laugh because they have the ability to, if you will, overstep the ballot question. There could be legislation that says, let's save the MGM Springfield project. Let's save the Penn National Gaming Slots Parlor. So first, how will you vote on this issue as far as the repeal, and then would you vote to save any part of the casino law if it is repealed? And Mike, we can start with you on this.
Sure. I will personally vote yes on question 3. That's the repeal of the casino law that allows the casinos. And let me tell you why. I think that two big reasons. First, the initiative is 20 to 30 years too late. And secondly, there's too much government involved. I've traveled out west with the Air Force and with my educational aspirations and life, and I've seen casinos out in other states, Minnesota, Nevada, and so forth. And there's not a lot of government influence. A casino will pop up and exist on a long road to nowhere with, it's got a truck stop, a nice restaurant, small casino, and it's really no big deal. People don't look at these things like it's a real big deal. It's a private sector influence, very little government, and it happens. So I don't have a problem with the casinos if it's done right on a small level, it's integrated into the community and so forth. The third item is these large casinos, they don't integrate well into the community. They have a one-stop shop. So if people travel here to the Springfield area to go to the MGM facility, they're going to go in the building, and they're going to spend all their money, and they're going to come out, and they're going to go home. What I've seen from what I've read, that the casino, they have a hard and fast rules on how they want to establish their casinos, and they're not working very well with our local businesses. Kind of encouraging patrons at the casino to go to local businesses like Red Rose Pizza. Okay, so here's your comp tickets for Red Rose. Go there, or go stay at the Marriott. But an MGM, you come to MGM, you go in, one-stop shop. You do all your stuff, and then you leave. So I don't think really it's going to do anything for our surrounding community.
So you're for the casino repeal, and but if elected,
correct.
So you would if elected and the casino law is repealed, you would let it stand.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and Deb, we'll just come right on down the line.
Great, thank you.
Casinos.
So I am in support of MGM. staying. So I am against the repeal.
Okay.
And I say that with some hesitation. You know, it's really hard to say no to the jobs. You know, I'm a Chamber of Commerce executive. I work with local communities trying to build business, and I was with the Springfield Chamber of Commerce for more than 10 years, and I worked downtown. I know what it's like downtown, and I know how desperate Springfield is for an answer. And while this is an answer, I don't think it should be the whole solution. It needs to be a part of the puzzle. I also feel that while there are jobs being created, they're not the kind of jobs we would hope for. They will fill a need, and I will support them.
Mm-hmm.
But I hope that we'll reach farther and look for more high-paying jobs that will take care of the families that are living in the cities and towns that we represent. They're not jobs that are going to help them support their families.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a living wage. And so we need to make sure that we don't just look at MGM and say, here, we have our answer. We need to continue to develop and grow. And I also just want to talk about my concern with the traffic and the crime that may come with it. I want to keep my eyes on it. So if MGM is coming in, I will, as your next senator, really hold their feet to the fire to make sure that they're doing exactly what they've promised, not only for Springfield, but for the surrounding towns.
And if elected and the casino repeal passes, would you seek or support legislation to save the MGM Springfield project?
I think at this point, we've gone so far that we need to save the MGM project, and I would work with Charlie Baker to do that.
Thank you very much, Deb.
Thank you.
Eric, topic casino
Rob.
gaming
Yeah.
here.
No, it's a very, very important question, and I'll be very clear on the answer. I do not support the repeal. So I'll be voting to keep the MGM project in place, and here's why. I don't think it's fair to Western Massachusetts for us to throw open questions that are primarily local in nature, regardless of what people's personal feelings might be in favor or against the casino. I think we can all agree that it's going to be the people in Springfield and the communities around Springfield that are going to be the most directly impacted, and that's the community that should decide whether the casino is here. Throwing this open to a statewide referendum essentially gives Eastern Massachusetts veto power over Western Massachusetts, because 85% of the population lives in the eastern part of the state. You know, there was a process that was followed, a license was granted, a vote happened in Springfield. So, you know, of course there's hotly contested feelings on either side. My feeling is the process was followed, the license was issued. Now let's move on to make sure that we get the jobs that we need out of the project, that the project goes smoothly, that the promises MGM made, that they live up to those promises, and then let's move on to all the essential things we need to do to grow and stimulate a middle class opportunity here in Western Mass. You know, we talked about high-speed rail earlier in the program here. Let's use that high-speed rail line to bring all the tourists from Eastern Mass here to visit the casino. There's creative ways we can think about making the most out of this project, and that'll be my focus. And I know the second part of the question was about measures, you know, if the casino repeal happens again, because I don't think it's a fair precedent to throw open for statewide referendum votes, essentially local decisions. I would defer to the local decision, which was the vote that already happened in Springfield and the decision that the voters in Springfield already made, which is to move forward with the casino project. So I agree with Charlie Baker on that position.
Gotcha. Okay, so we have Eric and Deb who would back legislation to save the MGM Springfield Casino project if they're elected and the repeal passes, and Mike is for the repeal and would let the repeal stand.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
you.
Well, we will take a short break here, and we'll be back in a few moments with a lot more from the candidates.